Good morning, mademoiselles and messieurs. Mystery Man 64 at your service, and welcome to my review for Paper Mario. First off, if you have not watched my playthrough, I would highly recommend checking that out first. There will be spoilers. You have been warned. This review is going to be in multiple parts, but all parts will and should be uploaded at the same time for your viewing pleasure. Now that introductions are out of the way, here are my thoughts, feelings, and review for Paper Mario. Our story begins the moment we boot up the game. This becomes a trend in the next couple of Paper Mario games. Whenever you boot up the game or wait at the title screen, some backstory is told to the player for how things turn out as they do, setting the gears in motion, so to speak. We learn from this intro that there is a place known as Star Haven where people's wishes come true, and there is a powerful artifact known as the Star Rod which can grant any wish. It looks like it is cared for by the 7 revered star spirits. Then, all of a sudden, something is literally been cut and pasted into the story. This moment cements several things for this series to come, such as its comedy and fourth wall breaking nature in some places. As Bowser tapes series first Kammy Koopa, an elderly female Magic Koopa, whose only major appearances are here in the first Paper Mario and its direct sequel, Thousand Year Door, which I might go into a rant later in the complaining section. Then Bowser flies in and steals the Star Rod, and Kammy Koopa seals the Star Spirits in some cards, and thus our conflict is born. Press start, choose a file name, and name that file, and the game officially begins. One important thing to note, since this game is very story driven, this is some of the first times characters actively speak, in heavy quotations, and emote. I say some because Super Mario RPG did technically do it first, coming out on the SNES. Just thought I would mention that because it is kind of a big deal. Most of the time, these characters as we know them are mostly mute, making various sounds or noises, given the rare exceptions such as the brothers occasionally saying each other's names, and so on. Our journey begins with Mario receiving an invitation to a party at Peach's castle. Once you go through the pipe and end up in Toad Town, after a few text bubbles, we can freely control Mario. If you have never played a video game before, this is where you accustom yourself with controls. On an N64 controller, the big stick in the middle is for movement, the A button jumps, and B, as of right now, does nothing. The yellow C buttons are for various shortcuts or actions for certain menus, and pressing Z or Z, depending on your persuasion, while you move makes Mario spin dash in that direction, though a different kind of spin dash from Sonic's. You can walk around and approach various NPCs and speak with them if you get next to them, and then press A. Once you feel you have done enough exploring, you can find your way to Peach's castle. There are more NPCs and some other things you can do here if you so wish. Otherwise, keep climbing the castle for progression. Soon you will meet up with Peach and have a seemingly nice chat, then BAM! Peach's castle, now on top of another bigger, scarier castle with swinging spike balls of doom, which is now floating in space. You got all that? Good. Then Bowser breaks through the window in his clown copter. I love the clown copter, by the way. The first battle of many begin. This first battle is very basic, with the only option to select the jump attack option. After a few back and forths, Bowser becomes invincible and soundly defeats Mario, Mario falls in a random field somewhere and given the quest to find and rescue 7 captured star spirits, as the prologue appears on screen. We find our hero in a toad house in a humble Goomba village. Once you awake and try to leave through the gate, a blocking block blocks your path, and only a hammer can break through. You make your way to the back of the big Goomba house and Wile E. Coyote fall. You know, when you think gravity exists and then it stops existing and then, you know, gravity hits and you finally fall. You get it. You're fine as you flutter down, because you're made out of paper. Laugh. Unfortunately, the path to get back is also blocked by a blocking block. After rummaging through some bushes to find the hammer, that B button finally has a purpose. Pressing B will swing your hammer, which can interact with various objects and enemies. After you try to leave the area, you will encounter Junior Troopa, a reoccurring mini-boss who will keep challenging you to a battle from time to time. Right now, he is a tutorial battle to show you how to select different actions in battle. Just select jump and hammer a few times, then you win. Once he is defeated, you will get this game's version of experience in star points. Every time you defeat an enemy, they will give you a set amount of star points at the end of a battle. If you can get 100, you can level up. When you level up, you can select from 3 attributes to increase by set value. HP, or heart points, increases how much health you have. FP, or flower points, which as right now you can't do anything with. And BP, or badge points, which is the same. Can't do anything with them yet. More on them in a bit. Smash through the yellow block and a few things are revealed. An HP block, when jumped under, fully restores Mario, as well as a differently colored block that this particular hammer cannot break. Exploring and hitting a few trees in the immediate area will give you some items. The TLDR is, some items can only be used in battle, while others can be used outside of battle, such as mushrooms, restoring HP regardless of being in battle or not. Time for more tutorials. The game throws enemy Goombas at you to teach the player important details, like if you jump on or hammer an enemy in the overworld, you gain a first strike advantage, which lets you get an extra attack off at the beginning of battle. Spiked enemies will damage you if you try to jump on them, and flying enemies cannot be hit with a hammer. The game teaches you early that you should jump on flying foes and hammer spiked ones. You might also find and collect a star piece on your way. More on that later. So after traveling down the path, you will finally find yourself back at the Goomba village. And the game throws even more stuff at the player. It's only this bad in the beginning with the information overload because although right now it may seem like a lot to take in, but the tutorial does have the tutorial. You'll thank it later. We get introduced with a badge as well as a partner to join us on our journey to save the princess. Let's talk about badges first. Badges can be equipped but may require badge points or BP. The more BP you have, the more badges you are likely to equip. There is a limit to how much BP you can have though. Some badges may need FP or flower points in order to use them. So think of BP as equipment slots and FP kind of like your magic or special. They're both utilities that you need to keep track of. Now, as for party members, I will go over them as they are obtained story/progression-wise. Our first party member is Gumbario. Outside of battle, if you press down on the C button, he will tell you various facts about places you are in, or if directly in front of an NPC, he will tell you about them. Now for battle applications, I will go over all battle capabilities, including rank up abilities. Starting out, all party members are given 2 battle abilities, but can gain 2 more. Gumbario starts with Head Bonk, which acts essentially the same as Mario's jump. His second ability is Tattle, which tells you enemy HP, attack, and defense, as well as some flavor text about them. Super Rank grants him the Charge ability, which stacks attack power until you use an attack. And Ultra Rank gives Multi Bonk, which lets Gumbario continuously head bonk until failure of the action command, which we shouldn't know about yet. More on that later. After going along the path for a bit and doing some battles, we'll eventually see you to your first major battle with Goomba King, or Goomboss, depending on your persuasion. This fight has much more going on than at first seems. For new players, they may use the Fire Flower they found, which defeats the 2 background enemies, and then focus on the main one. Some may just attack with jumps and head bonks or hammers. However, to those that know, or choose to experiment, may notice that the tree in the background is an option to target. This is one of very few instances where objects in the battle background are interactable. That in of itself is a very cool and fun concept that some might not even know to try this, and rewards the player by doing damage to the enemies and making the battle easier. Then continuing along the path will eventually return you to Toad Town. There is a lot you can do in Toad Town. I will go over all the utilities in detail later on. For now, head towards where the castle was and continue going right. So, heading up, you will see yourself at the Shooting Star Summit, and there are 2 paths, an upper one and a lower one. If you head towards the upper path, you will be going to Shooting Star Summit, which will give you some exposition that tells you what needs to be done next and where you need to go, / again reiterating what your quest is: save 7 star spirits. Going to the lower path, it takes you to a building that has very important utilities. First is a mysterious box that connects to an identical one. Remember that. The second is if you talk to the lady NPC, as I will call her, she will tell you where you can find things like star pieces, badges, and rank up blocks for a price. Upstairs is where you can exchange star pieces for some badges, and some pretty good ones too. Then returning to Toad Town, Twing, which is a small star child that accompanies Peach, will bump into you, and it gives you one of the most important things in the game: the ability to use action commands in battle. Now, whenever you select an attack action, a prompt will appear, such as pressing A right before landing on an enemy to perform a second jump, dealing more damage. One Magic Koopa tutorial later, and now you know that you can increase your damage input and block incoming damage by performing certain actions or commands. Anyways, go to Spinny Top House, run into some shady toads, reveal the Koopa Bros. Chapter 1 begins. I'm not gonna lie, this intersection had a lot going on, and I am making it sound a lot worse than it is. While you're actually playing, it flows more smoothly than I can explain. Just know that now that I have gone over these aspects, I don't have to retread what has already been covered. so it's up to you to remember these things as you keep playing the game. Continue along until you reach Koopa Village and save them from some fuzzies, and recruit Cooper. Cooper specializes in ground attacks, and thanks to his shell, is immune to fire and explosions. It's a thing he can do. His overworld ability lets Cooper hit enemies for a first strike, or collect items or hit buttons that are just out of reach. His battle abilities are Shell Toss, treated similarly like the hammer. It's a single grounded foe. Power Shell hits all in a line on the ground. Dizzy Shell is similar but may make foes dizzy and cause them to miss attacks. Lastly, Fire Shell is basically a powered up version of Power Shell. I will go over what I think of each party member when I get to the last one. Also of note, some attacks from party members may require FP to use, as Power Shell is the first to do so. Just thought I'd mention that now. Make it to the boss dungeon, and for the love of all things holy, pick up the Power Bounce badge. It is one of, if not the best badge in the game. Lets you continuously jump on a single enemy until it caps itself for failure of the action command. Solve some puzzles, fall in traps, hilarity ensues. Introducing the second party member you get in this chapter, Bombat. Her overworld ability lets her explode walls and rocks with cracks in them. It can even be used to get a very powerful first strike with a bomb. Battle abilities include Body Slam, virtually the same as Shell Toss, but Bombat doesn't have that explosion or fire immunity. Bomb, which bombs a single target for quite a bit of damage. Power Bomb explodes all foes on the ground for quite a bit of damage. Finally, Mega Bomb hits all enemies on the screen for quite a bit of damage. Climb back up the fort and fight a fake Bowser, and then fight the Koopa Bros. Once they are defeated, you collect the first Star Spirit. After each chapter, an interlude with Peach plays, with sections I like to call Solid Peach segments, where you play as Peach and find out where the next Star Spirit is without getting sent back to your room. Each one has you doing different tasks. But this is where I have to cut this part here. In the end card, I will link the playlist for my reviews as well as the next part of this review, so check those out to stay tuned in. At the next part, I will go more in depth with the Peach segments. I will see you in the next one. Until then.